Right. Right, shall we get started then? We'll probably get some more coming in as we go, but if we get started, right. So thanks for coming, everyone. I'm really pleased to introduce Moddie Lambert to you. I heard one of Moddie's talks and really enjoyed it. So I quick got onto her, like, will you do a talk for us? And then we spoke on the phone, and I'd originally had in mind what I thought we would talk about. And then when we was talking, different subjects come. I go, oh yeah, we could talk about that. We could talk about that. So I think we're just gonna wing it at them as we go along and see how we do. So obviously, Moddie uses or recommends lots of natural remedies, raw feeding, household items. Obviously, everything has an impact on our dogs. So I'm going to now pass you over to Moddie. Thank you very much for coming, Moddie.
It's a pleasure, Debbie. Thank you for asking me. Just quick, what was the talk you listened to? I did. Was it the tripe one on Raw Pet Medic?
It was the tripe one. Yeah.
Well, if I can introduce myself, Dr. Nick Thompson named me the tripe queen about 10 years ago, which is the most unglamorous job in the whole wide world, because I've had so much success with feeding it, and it's a bit of a passion of mine. It's just one of those things. It does smell horrible, but if it's fresh, it's not so bad. And they did an original tripe one, and then Brendan said, look, come on, you've got to come on and do that. So that's what I did a few months ago, wasn't it?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I've been in the industry for about 12 years. I've worked for several of the raw feeding companies, which is where I kind of got to know a little bit more about what I thought I knew, because I always gave my dogs and cats a cooked diet. And then we moved to Surrey, and I worked for Natural Instinct for a bit, a few other companies, and suddenly realised that I'd absolutely got my passion for what I call, fresh food feeding. Rather, it's not just all about raw; it's about fresh food feeding and a species appropriate diet for our dogs. So I went off and did my qualification, and I set up simplyrawfeeding.co.uk, Moddie Lambert Canine Consultancy, and I just talk to people. I get a lot of recommendations through holistic vets. I've been on the Raw Feeding Vet Society committee for about 10 years, where we try and educate vets on species appropriate feeding. And one of the things I'd like to say is I wish I didn't know what went into commercial dog food, but it's my job to look outside the box and to look at ingredients. And sadly, some of them are shocking and, in my opinion, responsible for dogs being very unwell. So yeah, I do lots of work with lots of people, whoever wants me, really. Obviously, Nick, Connor and Brendan are good friends. We all work together a lot. I write articles for companies about food, whatever they want me to write about. And I'm just on my own in Devon. I'm a little business, so I can do what I want and say what I want without anyone being offended. And obviously, I do consultations for sick dogs, and there are far too many this week. So yeah. Feeding, whatever you're feeding, guys, I mean, please feel free to ask any questions. And if it is dry food and that's what you're happy with, I completely understand that. But in my opinion, adding any fresh food to the dog's bowl, in my opinion, will be better for them in terms of longevity. In a perfect world, they'd eat whole prey. They would eat some of the stomach contents, which would be partially digested plant matter. And actually, lots of dogs eat rabbit poo, sheep poo, horse poo, and that's fine. That's organic, partially digested plant matter. They are not obligate carnivores like cats. I think some dogs would choose leafy green veg and nuts and seeds and herbs. So there's no perfect diet for a dog. And I always say to my clients, if I asked you to tell me what went into your dinner tonight, how much zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, you'd be going, I've got no idea. And I think that's the same for a dog. So in my opinion, there's no complete and balanced food. We balance over time, whether you chuck an egg in, whether you chuck some veg in, whatever you do, scraps from the table. I think that all adds to good nutrition. So yeah, I also talked to a few people about this. Really, one of my questions on my consults is household cleaners. And Joe Flanagan from Ingenious Probiotics is an amazing guy I interviewed last year, who has a company. He had a cleaning company, and he saw people with terrible eczema and all sorts of skin issues. and he set up Ingenious, and it's a very clever probiotic. So the good bacteria eat the bad bacteria, and I use it for my cleaning stuff in my house. I use it for the dogs. They do ear sprays and dental sprays, and it's incredibly good. It works, and it's just one of those things. I look at the flash advert on telly, and I see that poor dog padding along a floor with bleach, and he's probably going to lick his paws, and then I know what that's going to do to gut health. So it's silly things like that, like burning candles, plugins, all those chemicals in a home can have a detrimental effect on dogs. And I did have a very serious issue with a dog a few years ago with kidney disease. And the lady, we did a Zoom, and I said to her, are you burning a candle? And she said, how do you know? And I said, well, it's just a guess, but your dog's gone downhill so quickly. And her very sweet daughter had bought her a Yankee candle, which is very synthetic. And a dog's sense of smell is about 5,000 times more sensitive than ours. So that caused the dog to go downhill hugely. They took it away and things changed again. So it's all those little tiny simple things that you don't think about, whether your drinking water's clean, whether your household products are clean, Febreze, all the chemicals, bedding, makes, I try and build a picture and look outside the box. It's not just about food. So yeah, that you can tell I could go on about this all day, but does that make sense to anybody? Anyone got any questions about that?
Well, I just sold a flash battery operated mop to somebody because I've got a dog who's just had to have a cytopoint injection from the vets because he was chewing his paws like nobody's business. And I thought to myself, I wonder if the chemicals in that system are upsetting him.
Could very likely be.
So I'm now washing it with e-cover.
Okay.
Just plain water and e-cover.
Yeah.
But when you said about, because the filler for that mop is Febreze.
Yeah. Okay.
So it made me laugh.
Well, it could very easily have been. It's just so awful that these chemicals can do so much damage to our dogs. And I'm sorry you've had to use Cytopoint, because obviously that has quite a big effect on the immune system. But sometimes you have to do what you've got to do. Apoquel's another one, but sadly there hasn't been enough science on it to prove it works to stop a dog itching. But over a long period of time, we see some really bad things that happen. So it's really hard, really hard. Don't think I'm an anti-conventional vets, because I'm not, but sadly, because they tell me, the guys I work with, they do 1 month of nutrition, and it's normally sponsored by Hills or Mars. And it's like, it'd be like going to the doctor and saying, I've got a bad tummy or I've got an itchy skin, and them saying to you, right, go to McDonald's, go to KFC every day, rest of your life, processed food. So that's what we deal with, and we see sometimes instant results, sometimes it takes a really long time.
Well, with him, I've changed. I've taken him off his complete diet, and he's having. He will not eat raw. He just will not eat it. I'm cooking him turkey mince and throwing in a vast number of vegetables with it.
Great, brilliant. Is he yeasty?
I don't know.
Okay, so normally you can smell in ears and things whether they could be.
One of his ears is mucky, but it doesn't really smell of yeast.
Okay, sometimes they go through a bit of a detox, and that always comes out in ears, eyes, and noses.
Yeah, it's just funny with the things you were saying. It just made me laugh. I thought, yeah, that's me.
and you put two and two together, which is great, because so many people, they just don't think about some of the things in their household, whether it's comfort, fabric softener, whether it's biologically powder. So many humans have issues with it, but dogs can be so much more sensitive than us. And actually, those good old-fashioned things like citric acid to clean your loo, vinegar, they all work. But it's big pharma selling you products they want you to buy.
Yeah.
Which I've always been a bit weird. If someone's told me to do something, I've looked at the alternative. But good for you. That's great. Feeding some fresh food, eggs, You know,
Yeah.
even a bit of quinoa or some organic porridge oats. Not every dog eats raw. It's not the only way. It's perfect in a perfect world, but we can't always be perfect.
Well, he really likes what he's getting now. I mean, he's when he knows it's about breakfast time or tea time, he's there.
Exciting, real food.
Yeah.
It's all about real food, isn't it, and how it smells.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're scavengers. They in the 60s, I think dogs ate very well, living off the scraps on our plates. And as a child, I didn't see pancreatitis or kidney problems or liver problems or itchy skin. It just wasn't there.
No.
And now it's just, well, those are a few of the ones I see, plus obesity. I think 80% of our dogs in this country are obese. And that can be by the wrong treats. Dentistics, absolutely terrible things, brilliantly marketed, but it's impossible to find out exactly the ingredients in them because there's so much sugar. And that's for dental health.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, if you need any help on any further feeding, then please feel free to
Bless you.
I've obviously Debbie can give you my email address, but my website's just simply rawfeeding.co.uk. And I can always pick up stuff on that if that's helpful.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Anyone else got any questions, or I bang on about something like bone broth or something?
No, I get my tripe from the slaughterhouse, so it's fairly fresh when I go and pick it up.
Fantastic.
I get that. I've done it for years. I've fed raw for about 40 years now, and I've had a good relationship with the slaughterhouse. So I go and pick up beef tripe, ox tripe, lamb tripes. I pick up the lungs, sheep lungs, and the necks, and lots of bones.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, well, everything I pick up. I've got a pancreatic here, so I get the pig's pancreas off of him. I've got an EPI bitch here, so she has pig's pancreas off of him.
And isn't that amazing stuff? I mean, I use it a lot.
Yeah,
for pancreatitis.
yeah, I do use I do give a pancreatic enzyme with it because she was quite bad when I originally got her. She was under a year, Rhea was, and she was probably only 16, 17 kilograms for a shepherd. Ooh. But I mean, now she's a good 28, I reckon. She's put on loads.
You can
she looks well on it.
You can feed about a third pancreas if she's eating it and wanting it. I don't know why pig's best, but I love it. I think it's amazing stuff. And great that you've got an abattoir, because we actually have a small holding here in Devon, and we do a bit of our own lamb. And sometimes
I do as well. So this is handy.
Okay. Sometimes our abattoirs are quite hard to get back what you put in, because I want my organic stuff back. And as you'll know, it doesn't smell horrendous when it's fresh. It really
it doesn't. No, not at all. And there's a lot of the ox stuff I get it's still got the grass sort of stomach content in it, and that, which I don't bother to wash out. Just if I'm mincing it, I just run it all through the mincers.
I love it.
It's absolutely fine. I
love the fact that clever ruminator's got 4 parts of the stomach, and every single bit is a different way of fermenting. And I actually did a video with Brendan last summer. He came to stay here, and we did a very stupid one for 7 minutes with wigs on, and it'll go viral one day, but he'll probably kill me if I do that. And then we did a sensible one, and it didn't smell bad because it was so fresh. And I think
it doesn't.
Some of the raw feeding companies, they leave it hanging around a bit, and it can be horrible.
Yeah, sometimes my lambs smell more. The lambs can be stronger. And one of my male shepherd, he gets really windy on lamb tripe, keeps belching, and his stomach goes round. So I don't give it to him, but he's all right on the ox.
It's funny, isn't it?
I have the ox tripe. Yeah.
I have a client in Devon who was feeding tripe from a company up north. I'm not going to name and shame anyone because it's not what I do. But the dog wasn't doing well, and I put her in touch with a local bloke here in Devon who does venison for the human market, but he does a sideline of venison tripe off all offal. And the dog overnight was different, and you think that's from a deer, so it can be.
Yeah, he's probably all right. I just can't stand him burping in my face.
No, or coming out the other end. No, it's not.
Or the other end when he's laying at the side of the bed, and I think, oh, for goodness sake.
Yeah, some dogs can be a bit windy on tripe. I don't know why.
No, yeah, they do get chicken mince as well. They do. I get chicken carcasses that I run through as well. So they do get a fair mixture of all different bits and pieces, and liver. I get lots of liver.
Brilliant.
So, but I don't feed too much of that, just, you know.
Well, heart's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
Bones,
yeah,
ribs, ribs are great. And then a good old-fashioned marrow bone for dental health. So
yeah, I get loads of those.
I think they've got great dental health then, because that is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, I get very frustrated when I see adverts on Facebook for toothbrush and a tube of toothpaste, which will clean your dog's teeth. And I think, are you having a laugh? What
Better
a
than,
waste
better than a
of
dentist
money.
stick. Better than a dentist stick, though.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Well, probably is dentist sticks. If they get given to me as donations, unfortunately, I'll admit to putting them in the bin.
Yeah, no, I know. It's very, very clever marketing, isn't it? It's wicked, wicked stuff. Bones are nature's dental help for dogs, aren't they? The big marrow ones, they floss all the sinewy bits, they gnaw and chew.
They love it.
They absolutely love it. But
I lost a 15-year-old shepherd, and he'd got lovely teeth, absolutely pristine clean they were, because he'd had bone all his life.
Yeah, and that's what happens if they have the correct diet. It's like giving, you wouldn't give your children a biscuit before bed, and it's the same with commercial dog food. They're some of the kibble companies. I was looking at something the other day. I was talking to Bella and Duke, and I was looking on one of the websites, and they, it's a Chihuahua's got to have a specific food because it's got smaller teeth, and then a shepherd's got to have bigger ones, and you just go, wow, that to me is utter rubbish. It just doesn't work like that, does it?
Totally. No, it doesn't. No, no.
But it's not, you've got to be brave. Some people can't cope with the raw meat, and they can't cope with chopping it up. Hence, there are some great companies like I use Paleo Ridge for my guys. I think their ethics are fantastic. They're very ethical about where they source their meat. It's as organic as it can be. Their packaging's brilliant. And again, if anyone wants a discount code, I've got a few which I'll share with Debbie later. Because I work with all these companies, and I say, look, guys, if I send people to you, at least give them a discount. And they give me a bit of a discount on my food too. So it works every way. Yeah. But sadly, when I started, there were maybe 6 raw feeding companies. And I think there are now maybe 400. And they don't all get it right.
There's that many.
So I think there are. I mean, a new one pops up every day, and someone says, "Have you heard of da-da-da?" And of course, it's a greed thing. People jump on the bandwagon. They think they can put a chicken carcass into a mincer with no meat, a bit of ox heart in it, and then you've got a complete diet for dogs. And the bone content can be 50%, which is as bad as baker's complete, really, because you'll then get a blocked up dog who has issues. So that's our worry, and that's what the Raw Feeding Vet started trying to do. Brendan started something called Raw Safe, where certain companies can be affiliated to Raw Safe, and I think they pay quite a lot. I don't have much to do with it, but then that their food is tested, that they do the regular salmonella checks, because people worry about it, because your vet might tell you that if you touch your raw-fed dog, you're going to get salmonella, and there is certainly no science that I've ever found that proves that to be true. But people with young children might worry. I have lots of clients who worry about that. I've had young children, and I've never managed to kill anyone or make anyone ill. And I actually keep my dog food in the same fridge as my family's food. It's called building an immune system, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But I think any fresh food added to a bowl of dry is better than not. Because it will help with nutrition, with health. So yes, anyone else got any questions?
Going back to that, I mean, because we, as being a rescue, we use boarding kennels, so we can't insist that they feed raw.
No.
But if a dog has got issues, we then say, look, I think we're very lucky. I think, is it 4 out of the 6, I think, feed raw. So we're lucky. But if we get dogs with issues, I then say, look, we want this dog on raw, and then we supply the raw minces and whatever on top of that. So, but I understand, not everyone can afford raw, or not everyone wants to do raw and that, but just adding a few different little bits to it makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And actually, Debbie, I wrote an article for a company 6 months ago, and I was really putting it off because they said to me, the subject is raw more expensive than kibble? So I had to do some serious investigations, and I was really not wanting to do it because I thought the answer wasn't going to be what it was. And I compared it with Origin, which is maybe a higher end kibble, and it came out double. Origin came out at £14 a kilo and Raw came out at 7.
Really?
It's quite a long article, and I've shared it with quite a few people, but I was amazed, and I had to double check my figures. Not a mathematician. But yeah, it actually came out at half the cost. I decided not to compare something like Baker's because it's just not food in my opinion.
No.
But if you look at the prescription diets from vets, the Hills, they are not prescription diets. They are exactly the same food. They just call it a prescription diet. And I did meet an amazing lady at our Raw Food and Vet Society conference in Bristol about 5 years ago. She runs a fascinating company in America called The Truth About Dog Food. And she's a very brave woman because she's trying to take Mars to court at the moment. And she's had death threats. She's had some pretty tough times. But what they do in America is much, much, much worse than what we do here. But she was just having a go about this prescription diet. It is not prescribed to your dog. It is just processed food it's called science diet or prescription diet. So yeah, they're the ones I find the most difficult, and they are so expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's of 80 quid for a small sack of food.
Yeah.
Whereas, you see that, I wish I could educate someone and change it. But we are making so many changes. I think I love and hate social media, but people talk about stuff. There's also a lot of groups that do not give good information out, which worry me, because they're not qualified and they make guesses. And I'm on a really lovely group called the Raw and Holistic Dog and Cat Group. And it was founded by an amazing lady called Patricia Getting, who very sadly passed away last year, absolutely tragic, in her early 50s. And she put her life into this group, which is, I think there's about 50 or 60,000 people worldwide on it. And she approached me a couple of years ago. She very much chooses who she wants as her professionals on the group. There's a lady in America, Connor's on it, Connor Brady, if anyone who knows him. And it's an amazing group, but they absolutely advocate what they feel is correct. And they're very, very knowledgeable group. But I've come off a lot over the years because the information is just wrong. And they're not qualified. So it's a tough one. For anyone else interested in food for dogs, did you interview Connor, Debbie?
Yeah, Connor, he come and done, I think, our very first talk for us, but
Okay.
he done it on torsion.
Okay, bloke.
Because I was going to get him to talk about sort of, because obviously he's the dog first thing and raw and natural and everything. And then I heard a whisper that he was very hot on torsion. Well, obviously with shepherds,
yeah,
it's a really huge topic. So he done, and I'd sort of watched like Raw Pet Medics for ages before I asked him and that. And I have to say, out of everyone he was obviously the first one, but as soon as I approached him, he was, yeah, when do you want me to do it? I can do it this Friday.
I love him. I love Connor. I do a lot of work with him. I've funny enough, we did one of those torsion articles together last year. I spent about a year writing with him because he had to rewrite a lot of his articles because Google didn't like some of his search engine optimization. So he made me learn a lot of stuff, and we've done loads together. But I mean, he will talk far quicker and more than I do, and I think I talk quickly. But no, just going back to him. So his book, Feeding Dogs, is awesome.
I've got it here actually. Next to
yeah,
me.
same.
Yeah.
He took 10 years to write that book, and he meticulously, scientifically researched everything. And I don't think I know anyone who hates kibble more than Connor. But what I love about that book is at the end of every chapter, there's a couple of pages you can take home and actually understand what he's saying, rather than reading every single study. He's a study nerd, and he would admit that himself. He loves studies. But he's proved so many to be wrong. So yeah, I think he's absolutely, I adore him. He's a good man. In fact, Raw Pet Medics, we're doing a party in December. Are you coming, Debbie?
No.
There's a Raw Pet Medics party in Manchester on the 1st or 2nd of December.
Oh really?
I'm being dragged into. to
I
help.
can't get away these days because of the
Oh.
dog in that area. I just can't be away for too long and that. But
Oh, what a pity,
I-
because there'll be a lot of like-minded characters there, and it'll probably be quite messy, I would think.
yeah, no, I must admit, I do love listening to Connor. I find him really interesting, and really he cares.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
cares.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, I done a consultation with him a little while ago. Like one of my dogs here, she's EPI, and I just couldn't get on top of it. You know, she was having all the ends up, doing everything that I thought, right. And it was just a few silly tweaks. He said, look, let's do this then, let's do that. And she looks glorious now.
Yeah, isn't that great? I know. Sometimes it's just hard to do your own dogs, and there's always another thing. I start off, hence I'm called Simply Raw Feeding. I start off really simple, and I change very little, and I make people keep diaries, because I say if there's a real issue with the dog, I don't want to throw in 20 different supplements and not know what's working. A, because it's going to cost the client a fortune, and B, is it really working? So I start really simple, and if it doesn't work, okay, we keep a diary and we go, okay, that wasn't doing so well, so let's try this. And it may take longer, but yeah, you get there in the end. There's a lot of supplements out there that are rubbish, I mean, so many. And some work for some dogs and some don't.
And I think we can get carried away with the supplements, and all they're going to do is sort of poo it out, if you like, you know.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And as the lady was saying earlier about raw feeding, I mean, if you feed the correct diet, you shouldn't need to
you
supplement.
shouldn't need it. Yeah.
Like us, if we eat the right food, we shouldn't need supplements.
Yeah.
Even though, well, I mean, another subject is our planet and how we kind of trash our soil, but that's another big den to delve into another time. Not massively my expertise, but I'm fascinated by it because I think it's so important that we don't fill our world with too many chemicals.
Going back to the pet food companies, about 20 years ago, I arranged a seminar for Tom Lonsdale that he came over, and he was
amazing man.
He was my teacher. Yeah, he was my teacher. He was him that I got into, oh Christ, about 30 years ago. And
all
then,
easy bones.
Yeah, so every time he's not been over for a long while, but actually he was coming over recently, but I didn't get to see him. But whenever he'd come over, that we'd meet up and I'd arrange seminars and that. And so he done one, I arranged one local, and he come and stayed here. And I asked, Nestle Purina is near here, and I invited them.
Love it.
Yeah, not that I'm there to cause trouble or anything, but, but they turned up, and so he was doing his talk, and I told him, I said, look, Nestle, and I sort of gave him the, you know, the wink, which ones they were, Nestle Purina and everything. And so they said so, and then they muttered something. So we sort of, sorry, did you say something or whatever? And then all they could say when he actually started talking to them, and he was very, very sort of calm and everything about it. When he started, all they could say was that their food stops dogs starving. That's all they could say about it.
Wow, that's sad. I mean, I think sadly, Debbie, the people that work for those companies, they genuinely believe they're doing the best thing.
Yeah.
They really do. They're not bad people. And in fact, we Raw Feeding Vet Society in conference in Manchester, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we asked a guy from Mars who came along, and Nick Thompson said, right, you're doing the countdown, Moddie. So when he's got 5 minutes left, you know, you say 5, or it's 10, 15. And at the beginning, I said to this guy, he was very, very nice. I said, Alex, I said, when I get to 5 minutes, I'm probably going to throw an egg at you. And we laughed. But he went away that day, having listened. I think that was Connor's first ever talk he did with RFVS. We had in Billingshurst, you probably heard of him, amazing man in Australia. And he did go away and say, actually, what you're saying makes sense. So we like to have the enemy in a way, because we can all discuss things. We're not going to kill each other, but maybe we can educate them just a little bit. Because as I said to people, as I said earlier, if you went to the doctor and he told you to eat Mackie D's every day, you'd know he should go and have his brain tested. But in dog food, it's exactly the same. And it is not doing, you know, processed food, we know makes people ill. Processed food has to make dogs ill too, and cats.
I think we get, I remember sort of, not my first puppy and that, I was use tripe with him. Then when I got the second one, the breeder was an agent for Royal Canin. And at the time, you couldn't get Royal Canin in the shop. It was agent only.
Yeah.
And so she said, oh, it's the best food I've ever had, best food I've ever used. And so of course, from the puppy, I kept him on that. And then my other dogs went on it. And then I moved back to London, so I couldn't get my food from her anymore. So I was paying someone to come and deliver this, but it was one of the dearest
really expensive
going back then, because you know, you could, I think I was paying, I'm sure I was paying £25 back then, when other people were paying £5-10 or something, like for shop ones.
A lot of money.
And I thought I was doing everything right, and I thought I was like the perfect pet parent, and I was a bit smug, if you like, you know. I was doing all the vaccinations, I was doing all the flea treatments, and then when my boy got to about 8, he became really ill. And so I rang the breeder. I was very, like, she was one of my good friends, the breeder, and I rang her up and I said, I said, what's the average age, like lifespan? She was about 9.
Oh,
and I thought, really? And at the back of my head, I thought our childhood dog lived till he was 15.
Yes.
So, and I lost that dog at 9. Within 6 months, my female that I had, she then collapsed one day. So I rushed her to the vets, and sort of said, you know, there's something you've got to find. There's something. I was like a crazy woman, you know, because I was still grieving from the other boy and everything, you know, crazy. They come up, they said, oh, she's got a muscle wasting disease. There's nothing we can do. Make her comfortable. She was 6.
Oh no, wow.
Make her comfortable. So of course I'm then questioning what on earth, because like I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything I'm told. I'm feeding the best food. I'm doing the vaccinations. I'm doing blah, blah, blah. So I had her out one day, and it was pure luck. I had her out one day and sort of talking to a friend, and she went, what's wrong with your dog, Deb? And I went, she's dying, you know, like you lose it, and then she's dying and everything. So she said, oh, have you tried raw feeding? So I said, no, what's that?
No.
She said, like, oh, you give chicken wings and that. I said, you can't give chicken, you know. She went,
it's going to kill them, it's going to,
yeah, exactly. I went, you can't give them chicken. She said, you can if it's raw.
Yeah.
And the bit, she went, I'd be funny, Deb, your dog's dying, what are you going to lose? And that really,
I bet, resonated.
yeah. On the way home, I stopped and got the chicken wings, and I sort of had the vet on speed dial sort of thing, like, as I'm feeding, yeah. I wished then I'd have kept a video diary of what happened, because I just thought, you know, it's not, let's just try anything.
But she was your teacher, Deb, you know, that was your learning, that every dog's our teacher.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you look at David Attenborough films, those lions, they don't get kibbled, do they? They go and they chomp on all the bones, and they look pretty good. Maybe they don't live as long, I don't know. But there again, you look at the oldest dog in the world, who I don't know if you know about, Bobby, in Portugal, who's 31. And he's never had flea or worm treatments, he's never had vaccinations, he just eats the scraps off their plate, he wanders around, he doesn't have any stress, and he's 31. And that's amazing. It just goes to show. And the average age of I saw something really sad the other day. I think the average age of a French bulldog is now 4.5.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have a lot on my books. I dread doing them because they are so badly bred, and they, poor things, can't lick their own backsides, and they have to be wiped. But they have so many dietary issues because of the bad breeding. But yeah, the average age 4.5.
How can that be right? How can that be? Why do we do it? But
I don't know. And of course genes come into to illnesses and things like that, and I get that. But certainly Helsinki, Dog Risk, are doing a lot more studies like we were talking about earlier. And they, you know, there's a lot of really good science coming out that fresh food feeding is better than processed. But of course the big companies aren't going to like that, so they'll be fighting back, and they have an awful lot more money than we do.
Exactly. And then you go to the vet, and the vet, I mean, I think for the first, possibly the first 3 years, I was feeding more. When I went to the vet and they asked me what I fed, I'd say kibble.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was too frightened to say, and yet there was my dog. She lived till she was 15. She lived till she was so that was my sort of turning point, and that's when I got in touch with Tom Lonsdale, Catherine O'Driscoll, and because I've got in touch with Catherine O'Driscoll, really the other, like the vaccinations, sort of, because I then started thinking, what did I do different to the
one?
Not me personally, but what did we do different with the dog I had as a kiddie to what I was doing mine? We were pretty poor, so we wouldn't have been able to afford pet food, if you like. So he had table scraps.
Yep.
And I distinctly remember I was 7 when we got him, and I remember walking. It was different times then. The kids used to roam streets and that. I remember walking up to the little local butcher saying, "Excuse me, mister, can I have some scraps for my dog?"
Yeah.
And coming back with a little white bag. You know,
Yep.
only about that big. You know, like it was that. I don't remember him ever having a flea treatment. I've asked my brother since. No one remembers him ever having a flea treatment or anything. And he lived till he was 15, but he had distemper when we got him as a puppy. So if anything,
Yeah, he shouldn't have made it. But yeah. I know. But those are the days. Didn't you have to have a dog license? I mean, I'm an early 60s baby as well, so I don't know when you were born, but I'm not
1960. Yeah.
I'm 64. So yeah. So those were the days, weren't they?
Yeah.
Things were different. Things were different. People didn't have mobile phones or social media or any of the crazy stuff the young live with today. But going back to the health, we didn't have sick dogs.
No.
Cats. We had more cats as a very small child than dogs, but never saw sick animals. They just lived on. They're scavengers. You think of going back thousands of years where they would have come to our campfire when we were hunter-gatherers, and we'd have probably chucked them leftovers. That's how man's best friend became man's best friend. And now we've turned them into, clothes wearing. Oh yeah.
But lots of vets will actually tell you that. I mean, I've spoken to vets that are not recommending more feeding, but when you ask them about illnesses, they'll actually say, like, I don't know why it's so prevalent now. We didn't used to see it years ago.
Well, I know, but I think some of the sadness for me, Debbie, is that at university they are totally brainwashed. They are told that they do their 4 weeks of nutrition, and that is all they do. And Brendan interviewed someone a couple of years ago, straight out of Bristol, lovely young vet, and she was genuinely scared of raw. And that was coming straight from Bristol. So that is the education they have, and they are hugely intelligent individuals to do 7 years veterinary.
Yeah.
And that's why, because if you look at most of the vet practices now aren't private; they're owned by Mars.
Yeah.
So it's taking that all in.
Mars, do they?
Yeah. Another good one actually. Lily's Kitchen wasn't a bad company when they started. It was cooked, and she had a great story. She had a sick dog, and she cooked her dog food. Do you know how much she sold out to Mars for 18 months ago?
Go on.
100 million. And funny enough,
you know what? She sold it.
Yeah. You know what though? I have to say, and I haven't been offered 20 quid for my company, but if someone offered me 100 million for my company, I genuinely think I couldn't do it, because I've got I'm whiter than white, and I feel I've got ethics, and no one's ever going to offer me that much. So
Yeah, but
happen.
everybody says Lily's Kitchen's rubbish now, though. It's rubbish food.
Yeah, it is. They changed the recipe. They changed the recipe with James Wellbeloved. Again, not the best, but it was okay-ish. The big companies buy them. They've got the brand. They know they've got an instant client base, and they change the recipe to putting in absolute cheap garbage.
James Wellbeloved started up in Yeovilton in Somerset.
Yes, not far away from me here.
Yeah, and they started up when Wendy and Graham Stevens brought Eukanuba into the country, first of all.
Okay.
It was like an absolute miracle, because until then, all the complete dog foods have been based on soya, which was absolute awful for their stomachs. I mean, I got involved with it because there was because they were in German Shepherds. a very close friend went to work for them as a sales rep, woman called Denise Hanlon. And she came to me one day and said, how about doing Eukanuba as a distributor for Gloucestershire and Wiltshire? And I did part of South Wales as well.
Wow.
And that was how I got to know about it. And of course, in those days, I mean, this is going back, into the 80s.
Yeah.
Eukanuba was like a miracle food compared to what had been before. I mean, skin conditions cleared up. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I didn't stick with it very long.
And now it probably is owned by Mods. I don't know who owns Eukanuba now. I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know, because I know Eukanuba from the States, from Ohio, with the EU set up their own factory on the Dutch-German border.
Okay.
And that was when Wendy and Graham Stevens got pushed out of it, and they started up their Arden Grange.
That's
Okay.
it. Arden Grange, Wendy, isn't it?
Yeah. So that was how that one started. But yeah, that was
I think looking back at how dog food started, it was 1860, wasn't it? It was James Spratt who I think he was an electrician, and he teamed up with Charles Cruft, one of them was an electrician, but one of them saw the sailors coming in and they chucked their hardtack, which was obviously their biscuity horrible thing they had to, well, probably gave them scurvy actually, but then they chucked it out at the end, and the dogs, all the scavenging dogs, went and ate it because they were hungry.
Yeah.
And James Spratt had an idea. He thought, if I soak that in blood, I could sell that as dog food. And that's how, and then they shaped it into a shape of a bone, give a dog a bone. And that's how that whole industry in 1860 was started. But as everything, people get greedy and they change the ingredients. And actually, one of our last presidents of the Royal Food Vet Society, a lovely guy called Christian, he lives in Chile, and he is a microbiome expert, and he talks for hours about glyphosate on our food and dog food, because of course you look at corn, it's all ripened at exactly the same time, sprayed off with Roundup, and then you've got a toxic substance in every single wheat, barley product, from cereal to flour to bread to whatever else it's in. And I think that is having a huge effect on cancer. He's got some really good science on that, which is frightening. So yeah, I don't eat normal bread anymore. I've changed my diet a lot over the last few years, purely because I look at dog nutrition, and it's made me look at my own family's diet in the last 10, 15 years. Because it's I don't want to get nasty things like that. I want to live and be a cantankerous old bag when I'm in my 90s.
So do you eat organic flour or no flour at all?
I eat organic. I live in Devon, so just outside Tiverton. So we've got lovely markets down here, and one of the shops gets organic sourdough in every week. So I treat myself to 2 loaves of that a week for me and my hubby. My boys have long gone; they're grown up. And I cook with organic flour. And we are very lucky. We've got our own lamb here. My son lives up the road where there's organic beef, which is wildflower, grass meadow fed. I've got a lady who delivers eggs, who does organic chickens, and I have Tiverton Market where I get locally produced organic veg. So we're really lucky. I avoid supermarkets like the plague because I can, and I find it cheaper as well because I've gone back to cash. I don't like doing beep. I quite like the fact that I have control of my money. But I do appreciate how lucky we are, but I don't think it's always more expensive. I'd rather eat less meat of better quality than lots of cheap supermarket stuff that I don't know where it's come from. And I'm also bothered about the welfare of animals and how we treat them. And sadly, one of the things I don't like about Devon is we have a lot of chicken sheds here. And those birds are there for 18 months, and their lights are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And at 18 months old, they incinerate them. They don't even put them into the food chain, which I find disgraceful, because they don't lay 4 eggs a day anymore. So yeah, human beings can be pretty horrible. So I care about animal welfare a lot. And I think it's easy to go to supermarket. I remember supermarkets coming out in the 70s, and my dear mum, who I very sadly lost when I was 21, but I remember her saying at the time that she's going to be bad one day. And she planted the seed in me to learn about food, and it's just grown, and that's kind of where I am. So I've got a dreaming terrier under my legs. I got 2 Jack Russells, Dilly, who's 14, and her son Midgie, who's 10 and a half. But she's dreaming under my desk. So if you hear squeaks, that's Dilly.
Oh,
Do you have a view on Fourth Glade by any chance?
I do, and funny enough, it was a food that was made in Devon.
Yeah.
Again, I think it started off okay. One of my boys' girlfriends fed it to her dog, and I looked at it and looked at the ingredients and went, a bit pate-like. It's not the worst, but I wouldn't say it was the best. It's really hard with what is good processed food. I think Hug are quite a good company. They do cold pressed, they do raw, and they also do a food you can heat. They call it the first microwavable food, but I'm not a fan of microwaves for lots of reasons. So it could be a cooked food. I tried the dehydrated one, but mine weren't great on it. But they've had raw, so they're quite spoiled. There's also Rocchetto, which is a fascinating guy I met in Barcelona last year. It's very expensive, but it's very organic, and that's something you can buy dry and then just add water to. But that's an interesting one. If you were traveling, that would be great. But yeah, Fourth Glade, I don't know. I haven't fed it I haven't seen it for a couple of years. Is it what you feed?
Yeah, we're using it. Well, to be honest, I'm feeding kibble. I'm feeding, is it autarky?
yeah.
Okay.
And so we generally mix sort of half a tray of Fourth Glade in with it at the moment. But her teeth are not great, so I am having to clean her teeth, going back to like with a toothbrush and stuff. She does get chicken wings and things to eat.
Okay. Would you brave trying a nice big raw meaty marrow bone? A nice
Yeah,
big...
she tends to lick them, just pull the chunks of meat on the side, and then just gives up on them. So
Okay.
we do buy her bones, but she doesn't tend to chomp on them very much. She's 11 and a half now.
Okay. I mean, sometimes smearing a bit of pate on encourages them, because when she gets the hang of it, it's one of the most natural behaviours a dog can have, but they don't always know what to do, especially when they're old. I've got one that goes and buries bones. If it's a bigger one, it just goes and buries it. But if you and that would certainly help if you get that lovely, what I call a big knuckle bone that's huge, and then they gnaw and chew, and it gets rid of all the tartar, and is very much sort of nature's toothbrush for dogs. Try that.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, her dog won't eat raw. She's got a lurcher, and she does butcher's tripe meat, the tins. I don't think that's the worst. I haven't looked at the ingredients for a while, but it's looking at the grains. It's looking at. I mean, I'm an ingredients freak. It's my nerdy thing. I have to look at every single thing and where it comes from, because I've got to feed sick dogs. And from my point of view, if the animal hasn't eaten a good diet as a cow or a sheep, then the dog's not going to get it's going to come straight through the food. But if there's nothing wrong with her, I'd certainly look at that for a help with dental things. And actually, Joe's Luca tooth spray has great reviews. It's a spray you spray on, and then it's all about good bacteria eating bad bacteria. And he did admit to me a few weeks ago, we were to a show in Stoneleigh, he admitted that he used it himself. So it's not things like chicken flavouring. It is actually a probiotic. So I'll share that info with Debbie later or tomorrow.
Yes,
maybe give that a go. It's difficult, toothpaste. The vet will sell you something that's got sugars in. I looked at one today and couldn't believe what was in it. But obviously dental health's really important for dogs, because that's where all disease starts in the mouth, and that's where you can get kidney issues. So I think dental health's really important.
She likes the sort of rabbit's ears and things. Great. So she gets those.
Yeah, I do all my own actually. I dehydrate those. I don't enjoy doing them very much, but I don't think they're teeth cleaning. I think they're very good for rodding through their gut, certainly for worms and things. And they're great. I don't know with a bigger dog, if you look at a big deer antler, that's another way of getting them.
Oh
to
yeah, antlers. She doesn't mind. She doesn't mind those actually. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, obviously, if they break, you've got to be careful. But if they go off them, I find sometimes by running them under a little bit of warm water brings the smells back. And Midge, my little guy down here, actually, when he's eaten, he goes straight upstairs, goes straight to a deer antler. It's like, here's my toothbrush. I'm really clever. But his dental health isn't as perfect as it should be from someone like me who's got raw fed dogs, and that can be genetic.
Okay.
But I don't want to, I don't like putting them out. I remember years ago when I was at Natural Instinct, someone came in with 2 terriers, and she was about to go and have a very expensive dental. And I said to her, before you do, I'm going to give you £1.20's worth of 2 little marrow bones. Give them to your dogs, see what happens. And she couldn't believe it. She came back 4 weeks later and said, look at the dog's teeth. And they didn't need a dental. It saved her £400. She was very happy.
What do you think about these waters now that they recommend you add to drinking water for dental care?
Betty doesn't like them. She won't touch them. We got it from the vets.
I haven't heard about that.
She'll drink anything bar that.
Do you know what's in it?
Oh, I've got some. I'll go and tell you. I'll get it for you.
I've never heard of that, I have to say.
No, me neither. Because that was Tom Lonsdale's biggest thing, wasn't it? He says most of the diseases start with periodontal disease, and
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I had a lurcher bitch many years ago, and she was repeatedly getting gingivitis. She had bones and that, but she got constantly sore gum. They were always on antibiotics for them. She was fed raw. She was given bones. But she used to, when she got a flare up, you always knew because she'd drop her weight, she'd get diarrhea. It was affecting her whole system in every way, completely. And in the end, I just said to the vet, let's take them all out. And that's what we had to do. We left her 4 canine teeth, and she was a different dog. She lived to 15, and she had them out when she was about 8 years old, and she was a completely different dog.
Gosh, wow, that's very unusual, isn't it? I think that's very unusual.
The vet said, I don't know where we're going with it. Her teeth are quite clean, but she's getting repeated infection after infection. And I
there
said,
must have been something going further down in her jaw.
She used to get tonsillitis all the time. She constantly had tonsillitis. In fact, I think they took them out in the end because she had repeated tonsillitis as well. And it was all connected.
Yeah, immune system. Something was going wrong between here and here.
Yeah, but as soon as I took the teeth out, totally different dog.
Wow, that's scary.
She did lose her tonsils as well, though. We did take them out as well, I remember.
I don't know, I've ever heard of a dog having a tonsillectomy.
She did. She had terrible. The tonsils used to be so inflamed. And he said, not kennel cough. It's not kennel cough. She's just got massively, they're twice the size they should be.
Yeah, and I guess that's a genetic thing, isn't it? You can't.
Yeah.
Just something not quite
right. Age, though. Yeah, she lived to a ripe old age, and she never suffered any problems after that. It was just that it was poisoning her system.
Yeah, or blood. I mean, I guess if that's in your system that badly. I did have a dog a couple of years ago who had gingivitis, and I was talking to the lady. I was actually on holiday in Scotland, but I still did the consult because I'm mad. And the lady whose dog, she was very young, only 6 months or a year old, she also had gingivitis. And I think the dog picked up the problem from her. And again, within a month of raw feeding and bones, no, never ever an issue again.
Yeah, well, my bitch was fed them. She'd always never had anything else. She'd always been fed raw, and she'd always had bones, but she'd become reluctant to eat the bones because obviously her gums were getting.
Yeah,
it was hurting all the time. So you never did find out why this had all happened. Just how it was. It could have been genetic. It could have been something breed. It could have been anything.
Difficult to know, isn't it?
Yeah, it did live to a ripe old age, though.
Absolutely. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
in that water.
Yeah.
In 10 mils, zinc glycinate, 22 milligrams, grapeseed extract, 10 milligrams, sodium magnesium chlorophyllin, 1 milligram, proprietary fresh breath blend, 25 milligrams, vitamin C, sodium ascorbyl, phosphate, bromelain, spirulina, cinnamon powder, yucca root, sage extract.
Never heard of it, but I would think that my tap water in Devon would be better than that.
I tell you what, my tap water in Cornwall is, he will not, if I put some of that in his water now, he won't touch his water.
No,
You probably wouldn't drink it if you put it in your tea either.
no. And I bet it's probably really expensive, isn't it?
I can't remember what I paid for it, but several people have said, because he just had to have a dental some weeks ago. He's a little terrier, and somebody said, "Oh well, give him that. It's made a marvelous difference to my dog's teeth."
I would suggest the best thing to do is look at Connor's Canadent.
Yeah,
You've got a money back guarantee. It's a seaweed thing that you sprinkle on the food. I do it for mine. They don't.
I've
they
just
don't-
recommended
like-
that to someone, and they said it's worked brilliantly.
Yeah, and you can rub it in a bit, but it's seaweed. It's another lady in Ireland also does an organic one actually. Barnaby's, she does lovely fishy treats. But I think, you know, Connor's got a money back guarantee, and I think he put some rant up today that said, you know, if anyone doesn't get what they want, then I want to know. You can have your money back. He's just like, this is Connor, isn't it? I would definitely try that rather than mixing it in. If your dog doesn't mind, sprinkle it on the top so that then when they actually eat the food, it does go on the gums. And if he doesn't mind, you can always rub a bit on the gums afterwards as well. Some like things like that, and some really don't want to know. My guy's not interested in sprays near his mouth.
no.
And you don't want to distress them. So, but the Luca spray could also be another one for eating the bad bacteria. I like that. I don't think I've got any up here. No, I don't think I sometimes have products in the office, but I think I've left them on the house.
Yeah, if you give me the link to the Luca one, and then we can put that up in the group after.
It is Simply with a big S, Raw with a big R, 10. Simply Raw 10 gets you 10% off, which is better than nothing.
Right. Okay.
And then if anyone wants, what else have I got? I've got Paleo Ridge. I've got 20% off and free shipping for the first 2 orders, and then 10% off afterwards. And the 20% off one is Simply Raw Feeding with capital S, capital R, capital F, 20. So that's 20% off and free shipping. And then the one afterwards is Simply Raw Feeding 10. So if anyone wants those, they're welcome to them. I think you have to create an account with them to get those discount codes. But and then I've got bone broth. Anyone want bone broth? Is that useful?
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely lady I interviewed called Lara from Carnlea, Karnlea. And she is Carnlea. She's great. She's another Irish lady who I love her stuff. Where is her website? Carnlea. It's either co.uk or www.carnlea.com. And that is 15% off. Simply Raw Feeding 15. I think all of them are capital S, capital R, capital F, but they should work anyway.
Yeah.
So those are a few. So bone broth's a great one for gut health, and I think she does chicken, lamb, beef, and I'm pretty sure I saw a few weeks ago she's bringing out a fish one, which would be brilliant, and it's all made in a human factory in Norway. And again, she's very ethical. So if anyone's got gut issues and they need a bit of gut healing, bone broth, unless you can make your own, obviously, for a lot less. But it's
That's what I do. I just put some in the slow cooker and
bit of ACV. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. But for people that got small dogs and want easy, then it's nice to have. I've always got some in the freezer, although mine on that key light. I think sometimes putting a little pinch of Himalayan rock salt in helps, brings the flavour out.
Yeah.
And people are very rude about salt, but in my opinion, Himalayan rock salt is amazing because it's got 84 minerals in it and it's not processed. And I actually add it to my dog food 2 or 3 times a week because I think they need salt.
One always says do a drinking water with that in, doesn't he? And he says do 2. He says do that, and is the other one honey? I think he says do one with that and one with honey in or something.
Yeah, again, honey's a natural antibiotic. I had Midgie not well a few months ago, and Nick was on the phone every couple of hours because he was so dehydrated. And I did honey, water, and Himalayan rock salt every hour, along with some homeopathic remedies. And 5 days later, we got there, but it was pretty grim for a while because obviously dehydration, you're in big trouble if you don't do it, and you can do it yourself.
Yeah, I did that with one of the boys, Ned. He went into kidney failure. We don't know why. He just went ill one day, rushed him to the vet, and they said, well, have you given him ibuprofen? I went, no. They said, well, his kidneys are that bad. So he was very lucky, actually, because he's a difficult dog anyway. He doesn't like anyone. So I had to leave him in overnight, and I sort of had to tell them they put him on the drip and that. And I said, you can't go in there with him. You know, they said, well, how do we let him out? I said, you cannot go in there with him. And then the next morning they rang me, or the sort of mid-morning, can you come and get him? That he was causing chaos and everything. So went to get him, and then he was being really fussy about his eating with the tablets and everything in and everything. And I was just making sure there was plenty of like rock salt and local honey, Manuka honey.
Local's good too, actually. I'm a fan of
yeah,
local.
I usually use local, but I think I had Manuka in the cupboard, and I was just doing that, and it just pulled through it.
Yeah, it's a natural antibiotic, honey, isn't it? I love it. I've replaced most of sugar in my house for honey now, because I do like the odd sweet thing, but sugar's so processed, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have it in tea instead of other things, but yeah, the simple things work. I don't know that much about the homeopathic side. I'd love to learn more, but I do a lot of work with Nick Thompson, and I know he's been on here, hasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's brilliant with his homeopathic remedies. He gives me some as well, actually. I think it says Noddy rather than Moddie on a bottle. Another easy one.
When you mentioned Himalayan rock salt, what do you think about is it Celtic salt? I was reading about that the other day.
I don't know as much about Celtic salt. I think the less processing salt goes through, the better. And the Himalayan, obviously, I mean, I wrote this article the other day on it, and I learned so much myself. And I've got loads here. In fact, I've even got a Himalayan rock salt block, which I cook steak on, which in fact Nick gave me. And it's just incredible because it's just full of, it's about 84 minerals. Saxa, rubbish, just cheap salt. But I don't know about Celtic. I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, I sent for some the other day because I was reading up a little bit about it, and it's supposed to be like completely natural and unprocessed.
Okay, well, it might be
just dried out in the sun. Yeah,
that might be absolutely fine. I guess the foot of the Himalayas, where the oldest mine is found, is got some history there. Pollutants. It's, the seas aren't great anymore, are they? I think.
No,
yeah, I'd be interested to know what your thoughts on it are, actually, because it's always nice to recommend something else. But I think the pink in the Himalayan is some of the minerals that stay in the salt. I mean, I put it in bath salts. I make face cream and bath stuff for people because I'm weird. And I put it in there because it looks pretty and it's a nice colour. But I think it's great on the skin, isn't it? And I put a pinch in the dog's food when it was hot the other day. I did it probably 3 times in the week. Otherwise, I'll do it once or twice, just so that I know that they're getting just a little bit of salt. And everyone goes, oh, you can't put salt in because we were told we can't have fat, we can't have salt. But actually, they're both good for you in the right amounts.
Yeah.
So yes, I don't know. Has anyone else got any pressing questions?
Just thoughts on the yak chews as well.
Yeah, funny enough, I did one of the conferences, a company called Furchild in Dubai, and he was over because they're one of our affiliates, and he was giving them all out. I've still got them. Mine don't eat them. They bury them under a cushion. Some dogs love them. Literally, my youngest son, who comes home sometimes, he's 27, but he'll often find a deer antler, a yak chew, and on a really bad day, a bit of dead rat under his pillow, if I'm not careful. So Dilly, she hides them. I don't know why. They don't chew them, but lots of dogs do. I think they're great. Yak milk, I mean, it's not something a dog would find, but I think it's a great thing for their teeth if they'll have a chew on something like that.
Yeah.
Hooves, another good one. I bought some hooves at the Stoneleigh Edition Dog recently, thinking, great. They took them straight off and buried them. I don't know why, but they don't bury their lamb ribs. They actually chew and eat those, so that's good. But yes, Dilly, my older one, she's just got this habit of burying things under my youngest son's pillow, and it's really not pleasant when it's something. It was literally half a dead rat the other day, and I was told off massively. It's like, I didn't do it.
Especially if you don't see it as well. Especially
Yeah.
When the boys aren't here, I make the bedrooms up. They're ready for guests or whoever else, and I don't go and double check under a pillow every day. Oh dear, I think there have been one under mine once, but yeah, it's really, I mean, I guess it's love, isn't it? Here, have a gift.
Yeah, it's a gift for you.
Could be a bit of old tripe.
Oh dear.
I went, funny enough, one of the little girls here, when we was having that hot weather, I went into her kennel and I thought, what's all that down there? And it was just swarming with maggots.
Yummy.
And I thought, what on earth? So I found the dirtiest bit of tripe that she had hid, sort of right, and she's got a raised bed, and I don't know how she sort of, it was right under, so I obviously had to pull everything out of the kennel. Clean. And it was just literally
Full of maggots.
All these maggots were swarming. It made me feel ill, you know, when you're
Yeah.
trying to do it and that. But yeah, she obviously didn't fancy that bit of tripe at the time.
Well, actually, Dilly,
Extra protein.
extra
Yeah.
protein. Well, Dilly, I mean, she's getting a bit old to get squirrels now, but they both have pheasants from time to time. She will go and bury them in the woods here, and she'll go and dig it up a week later and eat it. She's got a stomach of nails. I mean, just absolutely revolting. I watched her carry a rabbit across a big 10-acre field above us here. Only last year. I mean, it was a big bunny, and she spent a long time selecting where she was going to bury it. And I don't know how she carried it, because it was half the size of her. But she's very dedicated. She's a killer, whereas Midgie, her son, no, he's not quite so. He did have a pheasant this week, but he's not quite as much of a killer as his mother. They're all different, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I've actually got a squirrel in the freezer that the guy, Curtis Pitts, who does the deer offal, he gave me. And he just a whole squirrel, and I'll brave it one day, but I'm not squeamish, but putting a dead squirrel in your
It just
dog
has
food-
a thought about that, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You think, no, not a squirrel.
I
but-
think she'd probably take it off and bury it. No, next issue, my youngest son came home and opened the freezer and went, oh my God, Mum, what have you got in the freezer? I know you're weird, but that's...
People eat them now. People eat squirrels. They're a delicacy.
Do they? Well, I think they probably taste really nice from what they eat, and they're a terrible pest, aren't they? We've
Yeah,
got
they've
frogs in
taken them from ours if we've had a shoot on and they've shot squirrels. They take them with the pheasants because they say they eat them.
Do they? Like I've never. They're so small. They're a bit of a faff to
Well,
deal with.
They're nutty. Do you reckon
Yeah,
they've
they
got
probably
nuts?
are.
All the nuts that they eat and everything else.
They probably are quite nice. I mean, they're
They
vermin,
reckon
aren't
they're
they?
like rabbit. They just eat the saddles off a bit, you know.
Okay.
They reckon they're like rabbit.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Maybe stewed for a long time in some wine or
And then
something.
thrown away. Give to the dog. And then given to the dog. No, I don't think I could eat squirrels. I draw the
I think
line
if
at
someone put it in front of me and I didn't know what it was, and then they told me I'd be fine.
that. Yeah.
But it's a bit like rabbit. We didn't grow up with that much rabbit, but our parents and my mother and everyone, that's all they had, isn't it? Because it was
Yeah,
cheap.
they used to eat them. I have eaten rabbit, but I wouldn't eat it now. Not after I see all the lumps and the growths all over the rabbits that you see now. And most of them die round our way of that horrendous disease.
Oh, myxomatosis.
No, not mixed. It's the other one. It's the viral hemorrhagic that causes them to bleed out and causes their blood to clot. It's horrendous.
Oh,
They don't have a mark on them. You wouldn't know there was anything wrong with them. But the trouble is with that, they haven't proved yet whether or not it can't be crossed over from one species to another because they've had hares dying of it, and there was an incident of a dog dying of it, which they think had eaten the rabbit.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's why it's a lot more dangerous than Mixie.
Okay. No, I don't.
What's it called, Rose?
It's VH something, VHD. I think it's viral hemorrhagic disease or something. VHD. It's called in rabbits, and we see them round here. There's hardly any rabbits in this area, and if we do see them, we'll see them up until they're about 6 months old, and then all of a sudden I'll find them lying dead in the horse paddocks and in with the sheep, and there's not a mark on them. It's not mixy, they're just dead. They're fat and they're dead.
That's really interesting. I saw one on our track yesterday, a dead rabbit on the track, and Dilly tried to go and have a go at it, and I said, no, you're not. I don't let them have anything. I don't know where it comes from.
No,
I've never seen that before, and clearly a fox hadn't eaten it.
no, they've got this other disease, and it's nastier than mixy. It's man-made, of course it is.
Oh.
It was put down. It's a man-made disease, but it's awful
human beings
because it
disgusting.
really has. We do not have many rabbits in this area at all. We used to be full of rabbits, and now we're not. And as I say, they have discovered that it has crossed species, and there have been hares dying of it as well.
Because they're on the low, and we've got no hares in Devon.
Oh, we've got thousands of hares around here. Obviously, they're not affected by it. There's loads. I mean, I can quite easily count 17 in the field in the spring. I watched them this spring when they were all a husk of hares, as they're called in a collective.
Yeah.
So, and I watched them all playing out on them. We counted 17 on this one field. So we do have a amount of hares in this area, which is good.
Yeah,
which is good.
We don't want to be overrun with anything, do we? I mean, we have a big shoot next door, and we I found quite a few dead buzzards in the woods this year, which slightly worries me.
No, I'm not worried. They're terrible. Buzzards have learned to hunt in a different fashion now because they will take live prey. They've had to adjust because there's not the rabbits lying around anymore. You see, they're not the rabbits to kill.
So we mess up nature, don't we? We completely
messed up nature. Yeah, and now they'll take live stuff. They'll take pigeons out the sky. They'll take pheasants.
Yeah. No, it's horrid.
They adjust.
And then they can't be controlled, and then there are too many of them because
there's loads. We've got loads over the wood, loads.
Oh, we've got hundreds here, absolutely hundreds.
Yeah, and we've got red kites as well coming into this area, which we didn't have.
No, we haven't got that many. I've seen the odd. We've got a lot of. My neighbour feeds an owl every night, which is wonderful actually to have the owl. We've got a tawny that
like that. Yeah,
he goes out every night and feeds it. It comes into his call. It's amazing. But that's lovely.
Is that a tawny, not a barn owl?
Tawny, yeah. We've got
tawny, right.
2 chicks this year in his woodland there, and we've got 2 in our woodland that way, which is just amazing.
Yeah, we've got lots in this woodland where I am, and barn owls as well, which is good, which is nice.
I got a family of barn owls that live in the field. Well, they hunt across the field behind me, and I've had them come and park themselves on my garden fence. I found myself in the kitchen once looking out the window at this owl that was looking in through the kitchen window at me.
Wow. Oh, I love to see the barn owls. They're lovely.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah. They are, absolutely.
The only thing we've got at the moment, which I do not like, is I've got hornets by my back door.
Oh no!
Everybody's complaining about lots of hornets about at the moment.
Yeah, loads of people have said that to me.
I will just get back in shortly. I can't turn the light on. There were probably 100 last night, and Midgie is terrified of them. I think I'm terrified of them. And they're fine outside, but in the house, no.
Well, they go have a go at bees, don't they? They'll kill bees.
And it's interesting because we've got a bee's nest in one brick in the chimney on this side of the house, and next to it's the hornets, which is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, they reckon they're the more docile of all the family of wasps. And
they're not as bad as angry wasps. No,
they're not. I don't like wasps,
but they look angry at the moment, and at night time they are. I put the light on. It's just horrible.
Yeah, there's a lot about, and they're getting a bit dopey, aren't they? And that's when you get stung by them, because you get caught out and you haven't realised you're about to put your hand on one, or you're.
I woke up with one on my pillow at 4 o'clock in the morning the other day, and that was not. I feel like waking up.
No.
I moved quite fast. I think I moved quite fast. Anyway, well, it's been lovely chatting to you guys.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask. And yeah, I think you do an amazing job with your charity. Good for you guys, because it's not easy.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Not easy. And yeah, if you want any help, just ask. I'll do everything I can if I've got time. If anyone's got any questions, please bung me an email and I'll do my best to answer any questions.
Lovely.
That's
Thank you
brilliant.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks.
Not at all.
Thank you.
So do we all just go off now and
Yeah, I can end it from here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you can
Thanks
can
very much.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not at all, it's a pleasure. We'll hopefully see you again one day.
Yeah.
thank-
hope
Yeah.
so.
Go and feed my husband now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Night night. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.